All right, let's talk about it. Ultimate Girls Trip number 3, the season that we're all waiting for. And, we're getting all the information. I don't want too much information, though. That is my one gripe. I want to talk about Ultimate Girls Trip season number 3 and kind of compare it to season 1 and 2. And, one thing on the initial one, actually, we got all these tweets and all these, behind the scenes moments, which kind of takes away from the show. And I think that's why season 1 isn't really stacking up to season 2. People really like season 2. I think they're getting tired. A lot of people don't like Dorinda. I actually happen to say that Dorinda has only made 1, maybe 2 errors. I'll get to that a little bit later. Actually, I won't get to it. I've spoke about it in length at other episodes. But I will just say overall, I have not seen Dorinda make too many mistakes. But anyways, talking about the texture and the actual conversations and what is being brought to the series, Ultimate Girls Trip season 2 at Bluestone Manor has been really good. So what's going to happen on season 3? Is the cast going to be comparable? Like, do we like the cast? So I wanted to kind of talk about all of those 3 and just really, I guess, bravo Peacock. They got something really good going on. Who knows if they extend it to the ultimate guys trip where the husbands, they get to go with Peacock and Bravo. They really can do anything because the Real Housewives over the last 3 years has sort of dwindled on a little, on some level. But stuff like this, like kind of mashing up your greatest, like an all-star team, is what people really enjoy. And before I get to what we just saw, and this is actually quite exciting. I think a photo is fine. Like I said, I don't want any spoilers. Too many tweets last time, or season 1 rather, and a little bit of season 2 where we're just like getting all the information. I don't want all the information. What I do like is to see Ultimate Girls Trip season 3, and we get our first cast photos. Let's punch in a little bit there. And basically you see Heather, Whitney, Giselle, Alexia, Candace, Portia Williams, along with Leah and Marisol. So, okay, before I get into who's on that cast, I wanted to kind of talk about, I think this show's going to continue to go. It's really, really fun. There was that time where it was spoken about where Andy Cohen was like, once we go to like an all-stars or a mashup, it's kind of the jumping the shark moment. But for some reason, it's maybe because it's streaming first. Maybe it's the streaming audience. All audiences are not the same. Your television audience, your streaming audience, even your, people used to have Snapchat TV shows, or everything is just done differently. So it's working, and I assume season 4 will come. So before I talk about season 3 in this cast, and to tell you who I like on there, and to tell you who I thought was definitely dropping the ball, who I wouldn't even think is an all-star on their season, I'll do that in a second. But the first thing I wanted to tell you is I want to kind of just break down who I would like to see on future Ultimate Girls Trips, or returning, because just I have a list of people here. So let's talk about who I think, if they were going forward, because again, 3 is already underway. I feel like we definitely need Sonia Morgan. For some of the past years, she has been sort of doing the same, silly, overly drunk, overly, horny, or whatever is her thing. Sometimes it has become too much. But because we had such a long time with the pause of Real Housewives of New York, it's building such an interest and a want. And I really do want and need another season, because I didn't, and I don't want to go on a tangent, but I didn't really buy the whole Real Housewives of New York was not that good that last season. I actually thought season 12 was way less interesting. Season 13 actually was a good watch in my opinion. But season 12, when, it was as if Leah was supposed to be funny and she was not funny. The only thing that was funny is that she was just like other, you know what I mean? She was like not the Upper East Siders. So she was like the cool girl, but like she wasn't really giving a lot, which is kind of the reason that we see on season 2, or her season 2, Leah's season 2, that all of a sudden it's like, oh, she's edited bad. I don't think she was edited bad. I don't even think she fit or worked with the show season 1. It was kind of a lucky situation. Anyways, I'm just saying that Real Housewives of New York, I would have never, even with the issues, I would have never like put this on hold that long, because it's still one of the better franchises across the board, in my opinion. And we have been waiting and waiting and waiting. And to me, I'm like, oh my gosh, if you do another Ultimate Girls Trip or some type of, new show, Obviously, bring in Sonia Morgan. Of course, Sonia Morgan with Luann, they've got their thing going on, but Sonia Morgan is just always fun to watch. I would also bring in Larsa Pippen. You know, some of the Miami girls are there this season. We'll talk about it in a second. But to me, Larsa Pippen is the party. Larsa Pippen, I just never, and I've said this on so many episodes, and I used to say this before Real Housewives of Miami even came back, because I was a season 1 diehard, like Larsa, first frame, first shot, first scene. I was like, oh my God, I love this girl. You know, I grew up in a space where you kind of were really humble, really humble, really humble. And Larsa may have grown up in a space where she, you know, the confidence was pushed to the ultimate. And I never knocked that. I actually am very attracted to that. I'm very attracted to confidence because it's just something maybe I never really, I had to like grow and learn that over the years. And another thing, the whole like little silly comment about like Larsa Pippen was, you know, she needed the Kardashians. It's just like, have y'all forgot? Like she'd been in all of the major, you know, movers and shakers type environments for years with Scottie Pippen. Like even if Kim was a great experience or whatever, and they were great friends, and I think they are. I mean, Larsa seems to say that they are, you know, still attempting to sort of work the relationship, the friendship, but Larsa didn't need the Kardashians. The notion of that is so crazy. And that's why when I watched Real Housewives of Miami, it was like, oh, she's just crawling back because the Kardashians spit her out. It's like, no, the Kardashians need Larsa. Larsa does not need the Kardashians. I have said that on record many times because Larsa is always going to be the most intriguing person in the room. That's just what it is. And yeah, yes, going up against a Kardashian, you know, group is definitely a big thing. But again, I don't talk bad about the Kardashians in terms of Larsa because in my mind, Larsa probably still has, you know, respect for them and you know, a friendship that will grow and continue later on. And beyond that, like Larsa's a mother of 4, and like she held down the motherhood. Like that's the hardest job in the world, you know, taking care of Scottie. You know, I mean, he's one of the greatest basketball players in the world, but like she, you know, she was such a great mother at that time. It's just so funny that it's always looked at as Larsa so individual or so selfish. You know, I just feel like if you're a great mother, you can still be, you know, the hot girl too. I don't see the problem. Like if she's taking care of her responsibilities and being that good mother, why can't you be at all the clubs or whatever and have this group of fabulous friends, you know? And of course, you know, she did divorce Scottie Pippen and things have changed or whatever. But to me, Larsa's always all-star worthy. So if you were going to bring Miami people, she would have been the first person, but maybe, you know, her schedule or maybe the money that she wanted, you know, was at a higher rate. Or maybe they just like Marisol and Alexia, you know, for this next season. And I'll get to that cast in a second. But right now we're still focusing on people who Ronnie would like to see go into a casting, and then we'll get to, you know, this photo and what we think of Ultimate Girls Trip. And agree with me or disagree. Like, it's totally cool. I don't really care, you know, like we're just giving opinions. Like, no, this is not the end of the world. This is just a really fun, you know, I guess hot take on or just opinion on what I think and who should be casted next. Now, I put Barbara in there because I just feel like we didn't get enough of her. Like, it's easy to see a one and done type housewife, like goodbye. But there's something in there, something intriguing that I really want to know more. I believe she's like a native New Yorker. Like, there's something about that, the entrepreneurship. You know, I don't know if she proclaimed that she was lesbian or if she was bisexual. In either case, there's just something that like feels like I'm really up for seeing more Barbara in a confessional. She kind of had a witty, funny personality. We've seen her over the years. You know, I guess she was on Housewives, you know, as not a friend of, but like, you know, a friend that you'd see featured years past. So, you know, to lose the Luann friendship, maybe you do a season with her and Luann in it, you know, because they seem to not have, you know, a bond anymore. Melissa Gorga and Kenya have already been in a series. They were fantastic. They were Ronnie 100% certified top picks of mine. And I love how a lot of people were like, wow, Kenya is really like cool and fun. And so to see that side was great. People think Melissa Gorga, the no storyline, is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Let me tell you something. You see these terrible storylines and the person has no personality. They're not given anything interesting. You have to be compelling. Compelling is compelling is compelling is compelling. And that is the only thing that matters. You know, you come up with an asinine storyline, and yes, we're gonna weave through it, you know, 6 episodes. I'd rather have Melissa Gorga just talk. Like, and you know that she is worthy of um that type of accolade from me because A, it's my opinion, but B, as soon as she did her on display podcast, it did well. And there is no surprise there. She's always been interesting. And that's just for me. Other Housewives fans, they judge different things. They love Kyle because she's got a beautiful husband, a beautiful home. Kyle, a snooze fest. Since season 1, episode 1, Kyle actually ruined Real Housewives of Beverly Hills for me. I still to this day don't talk highly about the show because I think Kyle and early Lisa Vanderpump were not very interesting, and they were the two main focuses. Had it been me, Camille and Adrian would have been your top tier Housewives on Beverly Hills, but that's my opinion. Anyways, getting back to my group that I chose, this is just a little shakeup of Ronnie casting. This is who I would cast. I think we need Lisa Rinna in there. It's actually, if I was Lisa Rinna, I'd be like, you mean to tell me we've done 3 seasons of this show, Ultimate Girls Trip, and we've never casted Lisa Rinna? Like, I would have said it in the third person. You know what I mean? She's so good and she's so interesting. And yeah, she rubs people the wrong way. And I just, for whatever reason, maybe it didn't fit with scheduling for Housewives of Beverly Hills, but Lisa Rinna would have been my pick. Okay, now let's get to the cast at hand. So this is Ultimate Girls Trip season 3. Your original cast, Giselle. I mean, I already kind of spoke about all of them, but let's just give what it looked like. These are our cast members for the Thailand season 3. It's a bummer they're barely filming it now because you're like, oh my God, when is it going to be edited and available for us to watch, on streaming on Peacock Network? Like, when is that going to happen? Giselle, Candace, what is this girl's name? Heather. Yes, Heather, Whitney, Alexia, Marisol, Leah, and Tinsley was going to be the other cast member. In the last moments, it changed to Portia Williams. Me, I've never really been a big Portia Williams fan. I'm a Kenya Moore, Gone with the Wind, Team Twirl, all day type of guy. And so Portia, the only thing that's giving me intrigue about her now is I do sometimes like the people that, even if they're not my favorite on the TV, that have made significant life changes. She got married or is married to Simon. Is that his name, Simon? The one that used to be with the other one, and then she's like crazy. But she could do whatever she wants. So the fact that she kind of had her spinoff, I never watched a single frame of the spinoff. The spinoff, I'm sure, was captivating. I guess there was some throwing of chairs. Portia's not for me. She's not interesting to me. Her mother, I would have actually rather, like, to me, her mother was more interesting. Portia just didn't have it. She's like the Teresa, like, she's not like Teresa in any way, but Portia doesn't have the wit. She's not really quick, like it takes a while. Like, you got to earth to Portia, kind of a deal. However, I did interview once, on the Dish Nation television show, Headcrack, through a contact of mine. So it was a colleague of mine, a friend of mine. So it was a nice meeting of Headcrack. And he was actually, this was at the time Portia was there, he was actually raving about like the kindness of Portia behind the scenes versus the way the TV show sort of, always has to punch up. So to me, there's room for Portia, but she's not my favorite person in terms of wanting to watch on the TV. But the fact that she's been away, the fact that she left Dish Nation on her accord, she left Housewives on her accord, like all of these things, it kind of feels like sometimes to be better at what you're going to do, and for better lack of words, this is their job, coming away from it may build some perspective. So now she'll be back out there and she'll give her Portia vibe that a lot of people like. I mean, she's a beautiful lady, and I think that's what people really love about her. And there's a aspirational, like, kind of a sassy personality about her, but it just was never for me because they always pushed her versus Kenya, and nobody's more the belle of the ball than my Kenya Moore. So that's just what that is. But needless to say, I think she will be a bit interesting. So the star of the show is going to be, without question, when you look at this group, so we've got Giselle, Candace, Heather, Whitney, Adriana, no, not Adriana, Alexia. Oh God, thank gosh we don't have Alexia. I mean, Adriana. Thank goodness we have Alexia. Oh, you know what I love about Alexia in the Miami version is her beautiful home. And usually I don't give like tons of credit for the beautiful home, but I love that lifestyle. Like, that to me was the coolest thing. Anyways, we got this whole group: Marisol, Leah and Portia. But if you were to ask me in terms of all of them, the person and the ladies that are going to be the most captivating, I gotta say, I feel like they're going to be Marisol, Giselle, and Leah, which is interesting because Leah, to me, was not performing that great on season 12, even though that was her breakout season and everyone loved her. You know, I used to be the opposite opinion. I was like, Leah is not that interesting. And she was on Love and Hip Hop before. Like, we'd seen her, we knew of her from the Laura Styles podcast. Like, we already knew of her. Like, we already knew who this girl was. And so I guess my expectations were higher. So season 12, when all she simply said was like, oh, that's so stuffy, Upper East Side, I'm a downtown girl. Like, it just didn't work. Like, I want more of just her. Like put 7 downtown chicks out there and like let her, you know, be with them and have that type of fun. But the only claim to fame was that she wasn't stuffy. Like, I just was like, that's so, well, what are you? I need to know what you are. And then there wasn't a lot of intrigue. But again, higher expectations with Leah. And the only reason I'm saying that is because, again, I did not like her that much on season 12. I couldn't believe that people liked her that much. I was like, she's not that interesting. Maybe you miss Bethany, or maybe in the back of your mind, you want this like, ooh, Bethany worked because she didn't really fit in with the lady. She was doing her own thing and she's going to build up a business. Maybe you wanted to see it again. And that happens. You know, sometimes they cast people, you know, I feel bad for Cindy because, you know, Cindy would have been an interesting person, but like there was too much like comparison. Well, she's not Bethany. It's like, no, but she could have been great for Cindy. And with Leah, not that they were comparing her to Bethany, but I think people do like a whole, you know, the younger gal with maybe not as much money as, you know, Ramona or whatever, and how she like navigates through the cast. I just didn't think she was that great, but people loved her. So I give you your full opinion. If you liked Leah, that is wonderful. But what's funny is that her second season, she didn't do that well and people didn't really enjoy her, which I was like, yeah, she wasn't that interesting the first time. And again, I said that. But what I would like to credit as a reason that I think I do really well with my recaps is I just will still be honest to what I think. This might be the vehicle for her. For one, you've got younger people. You have Candace, you have Portia Young and Spirit. You have just more intriguing people. You have Whitney. I think she might even get along with a little bit. And I just think that similar to what I said about Portia came off the show and now she's coming back. And it's like, what is she going to do with that time off? I think with Leah, even though she plays it very chill, like that's her her vibe. And she is like an awesome native New Yorker and all that, which I love. I always love. And you know what? Here, let me just say, here's another thing I love about Leah. Leah loves Lil' Kim and I love Lil' Kim. So like, I feel like there's a lot of things that I should like Leah for. And I hope that in this particular series, this is the series that I get to see and get some of that greatness, you know, the greatness that was, you know, her with Laura Styles in their podcast. Like, I want that Leah to sort of come back. And I feel like maybe this time away and Real Housewives of New York or Real Housewives of New York Legacy, which one is she going to be on, if at all? Like, I just feel like maybe she used the downtime. Her perspective may have changed. And she really, I don't want to say has something to prove because she sort of does have this lackadaisical energy, but maybe she does have a little something to prove. And I just think ultimately when I look at the group, she's going to weave in very nicely. I think she's going to, you know, help with a lot of the conversations and the laid back attitude. And it's a different thing because, you know, they're in Thailand, they're vacationing. You know, she was filming Real Housewives of New York, which is your regular life, and it went to COVID. So that actually adjusted, you know, the busyness that you could have and your career goals and stuff like that. Something about her laid back energy and a vacation feels like this might be her redeeming season, you know? So maybe, and so that's why I have to be fair and honest. You know, I do think maybe she'll be good on this season. Marisol was another one that I did not enjoy on her original seasons. You know, she always was, I mean, not just, you know, sadly because her mother was so intriguing, she was not her mother, but I just, you know, she was not as comfortable as she was on the reboot. The reboot, she came back and she was really a lot more relaxed, really almost like almost a villain. I mean, the way she kind of tore up Nicole, and Nicole really wasn't at fault, but like Nicole couldn't like keep up with her, like sparring, like word wise. Marisol to me really, again, similar to what I said about Portia and Leah being away from the show for so long. You don't take it for granted when you're back on the show. You're back on the series. You're back doing vacations and getting paid for it. And Marisol has kind of figured it out. Now, the queen of all queens is our darling Giselle Bryant, which she's going to be the one in the center with all the opinions. And I really think that people who want to always write her off, the thing is with Giselle is the two queens of Real Housewives of Potomac are always going to be Giselle, and then Karen will be following right behind her. Karen doesn't keep up. Karen's not that quick. Karen, what Karen does is, I bet you Karen was so upset that she was not chosen. And maybe they worded it like, listen, Karen, you just had your spinoff that nobody watched. So we're gonna give you some time and just, have fun with the regular season. Maybe that's what they said to her. I don't know. But Karen, just, if you notice, and a lot of people just miss this. It's so funny to me. Karen, if you notice, what is a friend to Karen? Okay. A friend to Karen is somebody that does not like Giselle. And it does not work the other way. Giselle, I don't like you. I like you. Giselle's a lot like me. I'm like her. We're both Virgos. I interviewed her once. It was the greatest of interviews, in-person interview. And she was exactly what I would assume she would be. And she was also exactly the way I would assume, because I've been in this business for a long time, since 2002. My jadedness and my understanding of things is okay. And my confidence and my, I guess, ego is very good. I understand a lot of things. But when I interviewed her, she kind of was like, oh, dope, you're great, da-da-da-da. It was a wonderful experience. But what she did not do, which a lot of the housewives do, they kissed the ass of the interviewer and the blogger, she didn't do that. She was like, she gave me my praise, and she's like, I gotta go. And I could tell in that moment that anyone else that she's around, they'd run right to Twitter. I don't tweet shit. I'm not really tweeting a lot. I spent 3 years off of Twitter while I was still in my career, that was years ago. But the new landscape of the I don't know what they're called. I'm a broadcaster, but the new landscape of the podcasters and the tweeters and the whatever they are, they like want to latch hold to something and they want to go run to Twitter and Giselle Bryant was quick with me and she walked off and she was mean. It's like, no, I like only because I've been in radio forever. Like I started radio in 2002. We were around real giant celebrities at all times, so I know the way things go, gotta go quick. And I feel like the housewives always do each of them a disservice. I mean, I guess it's nice. It's kind. Let me back it up. I guess it's kind to be nice to the fans, but like some of them go out of their way to really make sure that they grovel to certain people with microphones in order to make sure that those people narrate a different story online. And the reason you know that is because every year it'll be people that are compelling in real life, IRL. Twitter doesn't pay you, the network pays you, but they'll kind of maneuver and manipulate things online. And with Giselle, she's always been, if you notice about Giselle, when does Giselle ever go to Twitter to fix and correct something? She does not care. Unless it's being filled for Bravo and a check is coming in, she is not wasting her time talking to you. You know what I mean? And that's what I like about Giselle. If you notice a constant with me, and I'm very kind, I'm very sweet. What does Wendy Williams say? I'm pink, I'm soft, I have the biggest of hearts, I do. But if you notice one thing about me when I do these recaps, I think I like the baddie. I like the badass, I like the Larsa, confident as hell. I love the Melissa Gorga, confident as hell. I love the Kenya Moore. Like I like only from my upbringing, like I said, I come from Southern California, laid back energy, everyone's very like humble. And I always knew that my life was going to be a little bit different. You have to have a lot of nerve and gall and tenacity to get behind the microphone. Right. And so it never really matched up with me. So I was always in an environment where everyone was very humble and humble and humble and humble. And I'm just like, I really clinged on to, the people that had that bit of confidence. Every girl or guy that I ever met that was, had that Larsa Pippen type of personality when I started working on radio, those were my best of friends. I loved them, So I'm just basically saying that I think Giselle's a great pick, but I think one thing that is misjudged about Giselle is that somehow it's so funny. It is so, I got to put a picture up of Giselle. She's great. It is so funny the way projection works, because it's funny how a lot of times it'll be of the thought process that like, oh, Giselle is like devising a plan. Giselle don't care. She does not care about anybody but her check and her kids. You know what I mean? She does not care. Whereas the funniest of things is some of these other housewives, they do. Okay, let me just get this out. The Jamal thing was rough. As a Giselle Bryant fan, it was rough, but it was her husband. It was her, her ex, but it was the father of her children. She took a shot. Did it make her look tough? Yeah. But I just want to get out that she just, maybe that scenario would have been the one that really didn't feel all the way genuine. But I also think that one thing that Giselle does very well versus others is she says, like, here's my boundary. No, I'm not talking about that to you. For what? That is that as another housewife or another cast member, that is now your chance to say, like, well, why'd you ask me about my... What I'm trying to say is don't get mad at Giselle because she's assertive. She's asking questions. We're sitting here at a table. Nobody's talking. She's got an opinion. I think why people don't like her, at least the people on the cast, is because they're not... Okay, like if somebody talks to you in a certain way or wants to know about something you don't want to talk to, you have every right to say, no, we ain't touching that. This is what it is. Giselle does it when they ask her, but you, whoever you is, I don't know who I'm saying the you is in this situation, but people get on Twitter and say, oh, she's such a hypocrite. She could ask questions, but she doesn't answer. No, she asked questions. You didn't seem to mind, or you got resentful once you answered later. I hate when people are resentful to Giselle. And then Giselle had her boundaries and said, no, I don't even know you. I don't even like you. You don't even exist to me. That's Giselle. You don't exist to me. And then when you're good, she shows you love. Again, my interview with her was on season 3, and she was like, we were like kids in candy stores. We were very like yin yang. We got along wonderfully. I wrote her a this is when I said, Giselle, you got to stop doing the a word on the streets. I got a new tagline, and she's like, no, I'm keeping it. You know, that's Giselle. She punches back, you know, and pushes back rather. And I was like, okay, but let me tell you, once that is done, I think I said at the time, I was like season 6, 7, 8, which is so funny because now they're already kind of getting to that, you know, those later seasons, which this was early. I told her that she should do her tagline as, you could come for me and you may even try it, but there will only be one Giselle Bryant. That would be the tagline I would choose for Giselle. I will send you, or I'll put a link in this episode so you can look at my full interview with Giselle Bryant. It was wonderful, but I probably would have liked her anyways. And I like that type of lady. Like, I'm a huge J-Lo fan. They say she's a raging meanie or whatever, you know, bitch. But I feel like sometimes we're in a generation now where everyone just wants to run to Twitter, you know, and say, well, I met so-and-so and they acted like this to me. And it's like, if for those of you who've been in this business before, like, that's comical to us. You know, that is so comical. Now we have a space where anybody can say almost anything, and somehow we're supposed to take it seriously. Anyways, that's just a very long explanation as to why I think she's just intriguing and great for the show. And like I said, my only hope is that we get, and this is what they were trying to do with Real Housewives season 1, is giving you different sides of people. We saw more from Cynthia Bailey. We saw more from Kenya Moore. We saw more from Melissa Gorga. I want to see and show that it turns out Giselle's the only one who hasn't took to Twitter to kind of tear other people down or whatever the case. And then in terms of like, oh, tearing down, I don't want to make it as if I'm not being open to everything she's done. You know, I'm definitely not somebody who wants to ever joke on somebody's, you know, if somebody does say there's something going on with me medically, like I try to like stay away from that. And Giselle does cross that line a little bit. But what I'm saying is the judgment that she gets, that she's at the house writing notes. To what you're thinking of Karen. That's Karen. Karen is the one who, the moment The moment somebody has an issue with Giselle, Karen just wants to come in and be like, I want us all to be sisters. This is a sisterhood. I think she one day must have watched the Wendy Williams Pebbles interview. And I think, honest to God, I think Karen mimics or has a take on the persona that Pebbles had, which Pebbles was very like, trying to be like, not shady, but like say what happened with TLC, but then also say like the part that was hurting her and how she wanted it to be unified. And not that I didn't like Pebbles in that interview. Pebbles was great in the interview, and not that I don't think there was issues with Pebbles and the record label and TLC. And I see both sides, of course, but with Karen, I just am telling you, notice that the only time that people on Twitter, became like Karen was the lead of Housewives of Potomac, which was never the case. It's always Giselle, as you've seen from Karen's spinoff. I mean, who could watch that? We're going to do a show about Surrey County. She doesn't even go to Surrey County much. Like, I mean, we are really pushing, and, gladly, I'm sure the network has that deep in their minds that, oh my gosh, one of the biggest mistakes in terms of greenlighting was giving Karen her own show. And it wasn't a show, it was a special, but boy, there was nothing special about it. So my goal with this series, not goal because it has nothing to do with me, I'm just viewing, is that I really want people to see that Giselle's actually kick ass. Again, I'm going off how I felt that she already was on the TV, and then how I was with the interview. And then when she left the interview, I had immediately thought, had I been one of those thirsty bloggers, I would have been the one who, took to Twitter and said, oh, she's this, and she's raw and this. And I'm grown up. I'm a grown up. Like I've been in this business for a long time. I've had peaks and valleys. Like a housewife coddling me is not going to decide if I call her, this or that. And by the way, people are very mean to Giselle. Anyways, if you know me, you're always going to know that I like Giselle Bryant. She's a Virgo. We noticed that on my interview. And that was like one of those natural things. I was like, you're not a Virgo, because we were so back and forth. We were like yin yang. It was as if we were talking to the same, we were the same kind of energy or whatever. In fact, the other co-host was like, you guys really, have a vibe here, which is so sad, because back in the day, staying in touch with Giselle and her manager, Erica Lyles from the references of the show. I had stayed in touch with them for a long time, and I wanted to pitch a series that we could have done in the podcast space of Giselle years before she got the one with Robin. And the thing, if you know about podcasts, successful ones and successful hosts don't just do one. Now, granted, she has Housewives, but I really feel like she could have done Reasonably Shady. And then the concept, which I will not say here, the concept I had for Giselle, and we went back and forth on emails, just a smidge. Kind of like logistics, like would it be in DC or would it be in New York City where I was living at the time? But it never materialized. But I'm just giving you the what you think you're seeing, like a manipulating kind of like thought, like she thinks it out way ahead of the game. She's, trying to like come up with storylines to make this one look bad. No, those are the other ladies doing it to her. You're missing it. You're missing the boat. And that is my perspective of her, and that will never change, with the exception of the things that maybe she's done that have been a little below the belt. Talking about someone medically, I don't really touch that. I've always grown up in the scenario that there are certain things you really don't cross in terms of a joke. It's kind of like what they say when you're in school. They're like, don't say you can't come in because you're sick, because what if you really do get sick or something worse can happen. But Giselle, to me, I really want this season because it's a bunch of housewives. I want them to all sort of be like, oh, you know what, Giselle ain't this crazy shady mean lady. She's like she's the party, and she's always been the party. So anyways, in my opinion, when we look at the full cast, and its addition with Portia coming in for Tinsley, I really feel like these three really will be the top top performing housewives. They'll leave a lot more for story producers and editors to work with without being too like fake or phony. And I think that's what Leah sort of had a hard time with. I think Leah on her second season, again, I told you I didn't really love her on her first season. She just like became too much of a caricature. You've heard that before. But can I tell you who else I think is going to do good? So back when we interviewed Giselle Bryant, I also interviewed Candace. I had a bit of a, and I never really like do too much with the housewives or whatever on Instagram. But one time she was on Watch What Happens Live, and she tried to call Kenya Moore geriatric. And so I must have put something in the Instagram, and I usually never do this, but it was just more very Kenya Moore affirming. And also, I don't like the concept of making fun of somebody because of their age. You know, it's like if there's a podcaster who's like he's 22 and he's got, you know, better metabolism than me, he gonna think he's doper than me, and that's just not the case. I'm Ronnie, I'm 41, and I'm still gonna be hot no matter what. So I'm always for the evolving, getting older type of person. I don't have a problem with the young people. We've all been young. I know what I thought when I was young. I thought, oh, we could do anything. The sad thing is when we were young, we actually had to like be put in our paces and cut, pay your dues, cut your teeth. Now they actually, 18, 19, they can, tweet, $1,000, $100,000, sponsor or whatever, because, everything's done digitally. In my time, we still were kind of young and ambitious. So I get the concept of somebody young feeling like I could do it all. But I'm also saying it was a really great experience because now that I'm older, I remember thinking I knew everything. And I remember being like, oh, so-and-so's 30 something and they haven't like succeeded. Oh, they must be. And I'm here to tell you that's not the way it works. You are lucky if you get a chance to do what you love at any age. So for me, I'm always like, let's go, baby, 41. And that is the reason why I like Housewives, because this is the one time that we're not, in terms of like Hollywood standards or whatever, that not discriminatory, but you do know that, let's say actresses, they always talk about like after a certain age to get a role, a media role for that matter, kind of goes away. For some reason, our society keeps, well, we know the reason. The reason is because, the 18 to 34-year-old demo and the younger people, they usually, the ad dollars make more sense with the younger people at times. But with that being said, the Housewives makes it great because I want to see, I want to see the aging process, I guess. You know what I mean? And that's the thing that was always sad about Giselle. Sometimes people would make fun of her looks and this, that, and the other. And, I think Nicki Minaj, who was such a silly choice for her to come into the show last season. I thought that was a complete waste of time. I mean, Nicki Minaj is over here tweeting, this bit of information about what was going on in the world at the time, and I just didn't need it. It didn't help anything. I mean, it was star-studded, but I feel like Giselle was more important than Nicki Minaj. Not that Nicki Minaj's music is no good, but it didn't work. You just can't assume it'll work, and it didn't work. But what I'm saying is Nicki Minaj had said, oh, Giselle, do you think your physical appearance has changed since season 1 till now? I mean, that was obviously a dig. And while it is a dig, as I'm saying, it is, you are blessed to continue to be doing what you're doing and to age. And with aging becomes, things do change. And if your look doesn't look as fresh as you were when you were 26, 28, 38, so be it. And that's what I don't like about Housewives and this whole notion of bringing in younger housewives is it's like sometimes there's this thing where you don't even have to be talented, but if you look hot, I think this is why Portia Williams did good. Portia Williams was so uninteresting. If you go back and watch, she was never interesting. I mean, never. Her mom was always interesting. I love the way her mom played the game. Yes, yes, yes. But she was never interesting. But she was gorgeous, and she was making moves, and people really liked that. Anyways, I'm not going to put Portia next to the next person. That's kind of a different thing. But what I am going to say is sometimes, like even with the Dorinda Medley looks the oldest. You know what I mean? Like she's aging in a way that makes sense to her. And she's aging for a woman who, is dressing age appropriate. I sometimes feel like the Housewives fan base, not me, but the fan base in general, they don't give a pass to you like they would this hot young thing. If you're a hot young thing, they'll let you do just about anything, including not be funny. But when you're like a Dorinda Medley or Giselle Bryant, who's gorgeous, but maybe has a little age, starting to show within Giselle Bryant from season 1 to now, people make it. They really don't take the words as well. It's one thing that I don't like about it, and it's really bad on our society because it's one of the things that even made me, when I started getting back into this world of broadcast, it was like, I don't want to do broadcast again because I've had my better days, in terms of I'm hitting the gym and running 4 or 5 miles, and I was in a available time to do that, schedule wise. Right now we're kind of getting back into it, but schedule wise, no, we're launching a lot of work, and I'm doing podcast consulting for other people, and there isn't really enough time to even do my shows, let alone get to the gym. But I'm just stating that I would love it if we get back to the place where people like and appreciate you based on, oh dang, okay, I like how you move, I like what's going on with you. I sometimes feel like they do, like Kyle, for instance, it's like she's not interesting whatsoever, but she's got, lavish this, lavish that. And I think Housewives has a little bit of a problem with that identity problem in, are there Real Housewives of Beverly Hills cast the best cast members, or are they supposed to be the wealthy ones, and then now Dubai, even more wealthy. It's like, you could do all that, but you have to be also, and compelling, like Larsa seems to have a good amount of money, and I also like Larsa, but I don't like her because she has the money. Or Lisa, I love Lisa on Real Housewives of Miami, love Lisa on Real Housewives of Miami, but it's not, well, now she's going through the breakup, but it was never because of what she acquired, it was because of who she was, you know what I mean? Anyways, these are just my opinions. We're all viewers of the show, we love the show. May I tell you that I think Candace is going to be maybe not the star of this show, but a star in general. Oh, well, I mean, I was kind of already speaking upon that. I was speaking about, how she stated, Kenya geriatric. Boy, do I know how to go on a tangent. Woo! Take some time to enjoy the view, like Whoopi Goldberg says. Anyway, Candace, I think she's going to be interesting. Interviewed her years ago. We were friendly. And then again, I made a mention of Kenya's the blueprint for all, pageant girls, this and this. And Candace like got in my DMs and was like, oh, you're, how could you say that? You're a friend of mine, or something like that. Not friend, because we were not friends, but you know what I'm saying? So, and then at that point I was like, okay, like, so we sort of lost, not sort of, we lost the little, friendliness. But what I will say, and this is why I feel like I judge quite healthy, she's dope. Like, as I've seen over the years, and specifically after she went through what she went through in that horrible season, she is going to be, and I know you got to see the vision. See, I spot this. I always know. I never not know. I should work for, I should work for an agency because, yeah, I should work for William Morris Endeavor. I'm very good at this. Candace is going to be so big. Housewives is going to be like that silly thing she did 8 years ago. So I just want to say, even though, like I said, I had my once knew her, once was friendly with her, digitally or whatever, and through our interview, and she was like, oh, Ronnie, my dad's name's Ronnie, like all the stuff. And then, I one time went on her Instagram, and it was a light comment. It wasn't even that big of a deal. But as we know, Candace is ferocious on Twitter and Instagram and all the stuff. I think it was more her saying like, why would you put something out there like that, or write it on my Instagram, and I don't know what I wrote. It was something more like, you can't knock the queen, Kenya Moore is always going to be something like that. It was not a big deal. But it was just in reference to her calling Kenya Moore a geriatric on Watch What Happens Live. But anyways, that was the end of like that little bond. But I was, in my mind, I was like, okay, like, I don't care, it's no loss for me. But as I still continue to watch the show over the seasons, I got no problem with like watching, the gal. And over the years, I'm like, oh my God, she's about to be, I mean, I would have never dare say like a Grammy Award winner or anything like that, but like she's going to start moving into spaces that people from Housewives are going to be like, oh, wow. Kind of like when, did you believe it? You don't believe it? You should believe it, because I always know. I've only messed up on this like once. I always could see who's got big time talent, whether I like them. I guess you would say that's like an objective opinion. So she she's gonna be, well, I don't want to say she's like, but the effect, let's say. So when Cardi B came into Love and Hip Hop, she came into season 1. By season 2, the whole show was turned around and sort of given to Cardi. And I don't know, like Housewives of Potomac may never do that for for Candace, but Candace will use these years of television. And then when things connect, remember, she was already signed or working with that one, was a music producer. I think sadly he had passed away, but somebody of a high stature. Something's going to click for her. I'm trying to tell you, the acting, the singing, the dancing, just her overall aesthetic, and her consistency. And if you really break it down, yeah, you're like, oh, she's spoiled. She's this, this, and this. But she has given tons of personality on this show. You know, she's went at it with Karen. You know, Karen, I believe she's going at it with Giselle on this upcoming season. And so I'm able to say, even though Giselle's my queen, you never cross out Candace. You just don't. And so Candace will be very good on this show. So yeah, I guess, like I said, this episode was really just to kind of look at the new sort of, oh, they're underway. You know, there they are. This is our Ultimate Girls Trip Season 3 cast. And to kind of look at it, see what we think of everybody, and see who we think will really shine. You could never tell by a photo. I was going to tell you, because I mentioned this a bit ago when we started the episode, 46 minutes ago. Boy, I could talk, can I now? And I should tell you, if you want to support me, make sure you go to patreon.com/randomlyRJ Jr., patreon.com/randomlyRJ Jr. And if you want to see all the other shows that I work on, Randomly with Ronnie Jr., podcasters.com, popculture.com, let's shine a light on it.com. Please support them all. They are a lot of fun to work on. And I'm enjoying just kind of jumping on here. You know, I come from radio. It took me forever. And all my colleagues too. The people who worked in radio, we miss radio. And to get you to want to do podcasting, it doesn't have the same vibe. It never will. Live radio was just something that was so remarkable. I mean, everything from the headphones to running the board to running a live remote, and you're sending audio this way and you're receiving the audio back, and you got to hit the time clock. Like, it just didn't feel bland in any way. And not that podcasting is bland, but sometimes I'm like, you know, press play. Luckily, I've been able to really kind of, over the time that I've done this, over 200 episodes, I've been able to kind of learn the newness and the difference of it. But what I'm saying is, it's been intriguing. It's been intriguing. It's been intriguing to learn how to do it in a different way. You know, I will always miss live radio. And that's where I come from. 2002 is when I started. And before that, I was doing extra work and just, you know, production work and the music department at Fox Sports Net. Like, I've always been really busy. So now the fact that, like, the competition is just any old person with no credentials or whatever. And, you know, sometimes people in that space are going to be willing to do different things. You know what I mean? Like, when you have kind of a higher resume and done other things, you know, I've been on live television, been on a couple reality shows, you know, as far as just different episodes or whatever. You've done a lot that this little microphone isn't as amusing. But luckily, I've been able to kind of find a vibe and just chat with you. And I really am just trying to say my POV, point of view, and hopefully something is like funny or unique, and we kind of go from there. But I want to just say that this particular series has been a lot of enjoyment. I've sort of recapped all of season 2, and I always just try to, like, give you how I feel about it, because I do think on a lot of occasions I don't always have the, like, when I go to Twitter, it's sometimes I'll be like, you know, here's my opinion, like, I'll have it in my head, and then I go to Twitter and I'm like, what? People liked Heather, people liked Whitney. That's all off. Did you not see what was really going on? And then again, maybe I think differently because, you know, I have, like I said, been on shows and stuff like that. So in a vibe of being a performer too, you can see who's, like, trying too hard. And, you know, we're in a society now where trying too hard works. And so it's a lot. Anyways, let me just go down to the cast, break down the cast in terms of what I was saying with Heather and Whitney. Those would be the two that would not even qualify for the show. They were not even interesting on their series. They are very, very lucky to be there, I would say. I mean, and that's that weird thing. Like, back in my day, I you know, and whatever, people could say whatever. Um, Back in my day, you were supposed to be a little cooler. You were supposed to be a little bit more like, oh, you don't want to be a fan. Like you do this. This is what you do. This is what you do. And Heather reads, well, she doesn't read as a fan. She does even like, I mean, she goes to watch what happens live. I'm Heather. And she's a fan. She's a groupie. And as you know, and I'm just going to be consistent with my message here, the ladies I like are the ones that we've been here before. We got other shit going on. Like, you know, I always love it when people try to come for Larsa with Real Housewives of Miami and, you know, who's the queen of Miami. It's like, Larsa doesn't even care. It's NBA All-Star Weekend in LA. She got places to go. Like, Larsa does not care. I'm of the liking of the Giselle Bryant. They don't care. But for some reason, boy, you know, the Heather type, she's probably like the person that I mentioned earlier, the type of housewife that goes and says thank you to every you know, blogger, video podcaster, or Instagram meme account. And that does change the social media narrative. So it kind of maybe seems like she's more interesting. But I mean, gosh, could you imagine having a conversation with Heather? Would there be anything more boring? And Whitney, I mean, goes without saying, she had, in how many seasons are we at? Well, whatever it is, we have never seen one interesting thing ever said, but she's beautiful, And you know what? That's cool. I'm not tearing down anybody. If looks is what gets you in the door, great. What I don't like though is them together. And I'll tell you, Giselle to me, always amazing. But one thing about watching Heather and Whitney, it at least allows me to understand some of the negative critique that comes to Giselle. And this is another reason I like that Giselle's on the show on her own on season 3, because a lot of times she gets the critique like, oh, she's only like that because Robin's right there, you know, always supporting her or whatever. Well, two things. She came into the show contractually, you know, and pushing and affirming Robin, like, I'm doing the show with Robin. So again, we all choose how we want to step in here. Don't get mad at me because you, like, let's say you were a aspiring housewife or whatever that would be called, not wannabe, you're being positioned to be a housewife, you know, a cast member. Well, if you took the what did they say, the low rate that Carol or Leah was saying, and then somebody else fought for it, and I honestly say Leah, it sounded like season 2, and I'll give her credit here. Always credit where credit's due. It sounded like she did negotiate for her, you know, a better rate for the second season, because really coming off season 1, she really was important to the show. I didn't think it, but in fact, when she was negotiating, I was like, let her go. So what I'm saying is you can't get mad at the next person because they have tenacity and you don't. And Heather and Whitney kind of read that. They seem to like not know how to make it move. And maybe they look at others and are, I don't know, backhandedly jealous, or I don't know. They would never have been my all-stars. I mean, I don't think that you could have brought Meredith and Lisa together because I feel like you sort of ruin too much of the regular season. I mean, I'm really sad that Meredith and Lisa aren't close anymore. And I feel like actually a lot of that was word jumble from some of the people like Heather and Whitney, to be honest with you. Like Lisa really didn't do anything wrong. But Lisa's not, Lisa, though she's one of my favorite, she's not like always the fastest with, like, you know, knowing how to navigate her sentences and stuff, and knowing how to, like, you know, say, no, I didn't do that. You know, she somehow ends up looking worse than she actually is. But I guess there's not a lot to choose from because Mary's not there. Jenny Wynn, of course, is long gone. Jen Shaw is, admitting to guilt, and there really wasn't anyone to choose. But Heather and Whitney, I mean, if the show does bad, it would be because there's two of them. There's Heather and Whitney. Now, what was the original concept? Maybe the concept was supposed to be Robin and Giselle, best buds. Alexia and Marisol, best buds. Whitney and Heather, best buds. Who else is there? Leah and Tinsley. Maybe that was the original goal. So I guess it's fine that they're there, but it would have been intriguing because the same sentence that I have for, I know Giselle's entertaining regardless, but there is always a couple of haters or not knowers who are like, oh, she's only like, the way she is because Robin's always, as they say, up her ass, which I'm like, do you all know Robin to me is so familial. Robin, I guess because Robin and I are similar in age, Robin reminds me of some of the girls I grew up with. You know what I mean? Robin is actually like in real life. That's the thing about this Twitter thing and social media and the lousy ones that go grovel to the online bloggers and meme accounts. Like those people keep like messing the whole thing up. But Robin in real life, oh no, 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 no. Robin is it. Like Robin reminds me of like, so let's say I'm a freshman, so the people that were like seniors, she reminds me of that. Like a couple years older, that group of people, would probably have went to the clubs that I had went to or whatever. But it was that little bit of older generation that you kind of loved. I went to high school in '98 was when I graduated, so she would have been like class of '95. She would have been like it, like she would have been the coolest girl in the school. So it's just so funny that Robin gets looked at as like only up Giselle's ass. But I'm just gonna say that I think it's really good that we're going to now see Giselle on her own. But what it would have been interesting to do on the similar side is to see Heather on her own. And then all of us go, oh my, she's not that interesting. So my only judgment, and I hope I've been consistent with my message here, is if you're interesting or if you're not interesting. And Heather, Whitney, they kind of don't strike me as it. I wish we had Mary. Mary would have been good for the group. And who else are we missing? I mean, we don't have anyone from OC. I think because she left the show or got let go or whatever, Noella would have been great. And if we're thinking about the Housewives of Dubai, a lot of people don't really love the season, but there's something there. There's something there. And I'm trying to think who I would pick. This is just off the top as we end the episode here. Who would I pick from Real Housewives of Dubai to be on the show? Okay, Caroline Brooks I love, but I feel like I still want Caroline Brooks in Real Housewives of Dubai. I kind of want to see her really mature in that space and be like the it girl. And by the way, I think a lot of the Dubai girls they're all, it's almost like an all-star cast in some ways. Whether the season is going good, that's a different story, but I like them all. I like Lisa. I feel like Lisa and Sarah. Let me tell you something. Sarah, to me, on Housewives of Dubai, while she's not the biggest character, I can't get enough. I can't get enough. So I would put, and I should have done it in my group here where I was kind of doing a predictive who else I would like to see either come for the first time to Housewives Ultimate Girls Trip Season 4 or, returning, which would be Kenya and Melissa, because Kenya and Melissa are always going to be the party. But yeah, I didn't get a chance to think about Dubai or OC, really. Noella would be great. And maybe even, the girl Nicole. Was it Nicole? And the reason I think Nicole would be good is because we get this little shot of somebody. Then the Heather Dubrow stuff supposedly happens. I'm not saying it did or didn't, the alleged Heather Dubrow situation. But Nicole, regardless, she left. And I feel like there's still a story to tell. And not like about Heather Dubrow or anything. Just when you get somebody and you think they're going to be a fun housewife, young and fresh energy, but then you get it sort of taken away. I still got questions. So I think Nicole and Noella would have been great. I know a lot of people don't like Gina. I still think Gina would have been great. But again, for the two choices that I'm going to do for Housewives of Dubai, it's going to be Sarah and it's going to be Lisa. Lisa to me is so fun. A lot of people seem to, it's thought of that, what is it, Chanel Iman, that she's like I guess everyone's kind of competing for that top spot. But I can't get enough of Lisa and Caroline Brooks. Like I can't get enough. And Sarah is so like when Sarah told Caroline Brooks, like she had asked a question. So Sarah just answered about the boarding school for her son. But then Sarah says, may I also add an opinion here? And then it was something that Caroline didn't like in regards to the son. And once you mess with somebody and their, how they raise their kid, it becomes something. Especially Caroline Brooks says she was raised in a really, tougher manner, and it's made her who she is and how successful she is. But the way Sarah just worked that sentence and didn't come off mean, but she was able to kind of nudge Caroline Brooks. Like, I don't think Caroline Brooks hates Sarah at all, but I think Sarah has a way with words, and she's almost stoic when she talks sometimes. I hope that sometimes I don't think the choices that Bravo makes are like what I would make. They go for things that don't always make sense. And yes, if Chanel Iman is if she's the big star, great. but just make sure we have Sarah coming back. Sarah is good for the conversation. You know how they always say we need somebody who represents the crowd, the audience. She's like us watching this craziness. So Sarah to me is good. So I would put Sarah, and I want to put Caroline Brooks, but I want her to stay in Housewives of Dubai. I want her to welcome Phaedra and them do their own thing. But if Lisa could get away, Lisa's fun. I like her. Anyways, this is just, for what it's worth, my opinion. It's a great TV show. This is just, having fun conversations. If you bothered to stay and enjoy it, I think that's really cool. The ladies are underway. Heather, Whitney, and, I had my critique on, do they qualify? Are they that interesting? Did they really deserve to be on this show? But again, who deserves anything? Like I can't decide that. So good for them. And let me be kind. Heather, Whitney, I hope they're having a blast. Giselle, life of the party. Alexia, which was one of my favorites way, way back in the day. There was one season there that I wasn't really loving her, but she was an early season 1 and 2. I could not get enough Alexia. Well, actually, Alexia on season 2 was when the son kind of went through his accident. So I think she took some time away season 2, or was that season 3? I think it was season 2. So Alexia, I really do. And her having Marisol, I think that's going to be great too. Candace, like I said, hey, when she ends up winning all these awards, in 5 or 6 years, just say I said it first. Portia, it'll be nice to see her back. Not my favorite, but it'll be nice to see her back. Leah, not my favorite, but I think she may have learn to tone it down and punch it up where necessary in terms of wow, I might actually lose this opportunity, because she was becoming too much of a caricature, to some degree. And she's probably, not probably, from every interview, she's a kick-ass girl. So we just need more of that. We want, I'm a New York City, lover, so give me more New York City stories. It doesn't need to be like Upper East Side is boring and where I'm at downtown is a little bit more interesting. Just give it all, give me those stories about what she went through when she had to get the lawsuit, which helped create her brand or whatever. Just those really, addiction, New York City, coming up in that era, that's what we want, that girl, but aged to 40 years old. And there's a lot of people who kind of inhibit that. And so if it's not going to be her, it will be one of the other ones who could do the job. But I think maybe she's back. This might be a good time for Leah. I do wonder though, does Leah have a friendship with Ebony K. Williams? Because I'm going to probably side with Ebony K. Williams over Leah. The whole situation was just really not good. And, Housewives of New York taking the pause, I think they made more of an error. And if all the parties could not come to the reunion, they could have done reunions in a different way. Second season of Love and Hip Hop was not done the way the first and every other season. Second season, they did it individual. So they just had, Mona Scott Young, the producer, and she was just interviewing each of the cast members. That would have been a way to do it. Andy Cohen, because he loves a job, he loves to always be the face of the network, because he doesn't have any correspondence, so it's just him. He could have done a sit down with all of them, and we could have got Ebony's side. We could have got, they could have. I don't want to say it, but it seems like they cover Ramona, and I don't necessarily like that, but if they wanted to, they could have. So this has become such a mess. So I hope that it does come out okay, Leah, what's up? What's up with you and Ebony? Or what's up with the cast? What's up with the show? That would be the storyline that I would like to see. I know a lot of people want to get, is Candace and Portia close, because they had some stuff in terms of Candace and her argument and Portia being, friendly to, other people. So I'm just really intrigued by it. But hopefully we get it in a pretty decent time. I got to tell you, that is the end of the show. I thank you for checking it out. There's many more episodes. Like I said, go check out all the other channels. Log on. It's easy. RandomlyWithRonnieJr.com, DifficultPodcasters.com, PopCulturePOV.com, and let's shine a light on it. Never did I think I would talk about Housewives for an hour, but you know what? I do it all the time anyways. If you enjoyed this, I say thank you. If I am not your cup of tea, well, there's plenty of other episodes and shows out there. But for the ones that did like me and what I do, goodbye. And here's a little bit more.
Ronnie Jr.